let's talk about iron on. Iron on, or you might have heard its other name, heat transfer vinyl, HTV, is the type of material that we use for popping a design onto fabrics. It does work on lots of other things as well as fabric, I'll get to that later, but generally you're going to use it for things like t-shirts, tote bags, anything where you want to add a really cool design onto a fabric and it move with that fabric. Now this is heat activated, so you need a heat press, an easy press, or an iron to make this happen, to make it adhere to the fabric. And that's because that glue activates on the back as it gets hot and adheres into the fabric that you're popping it onto. Now there's lots of different types of iron-on, comes in all different colours and types, so I'm just going to run through some of the different types that you can get. The main one that Cricut talk about is everyday iron-on. These are your everyday colours, and this is a smooth sheet. So it's one sheet, one colour, and nice and smooth, and it's kind of matte on the back. Sorry for this scraggy old piece. Generally it looks like this in the packet. Then you've got Sport Flex, which kind of has this oily finish on the back. It's kind of shiny on both sides. And this is the one you're going to use for any fabrics that have a stretch to them. So it's called Sport Flex because, of course, most sport materials, it works great on lycras or anything where you're moving or something's a bit tight and you want it to have a little bit of stretch. Sport Flex is the one, but of course, it doesn't have to be your workout gear. It can be your kids' leggings or, yeah, something tight that you just want to move with the material. You're going to get that stretch with your design, so that's Sport Flex. And then, of course, it comes in a variety of different finishes. My personal favourite, of course, being glitter. This is kind of the thickest iron-on you can get, so it just feels that little bit thicker, but it's got that lovely glitter effect, and that glitter doesn't come off. Of course, you've got like sparkly and normal holographics. You also get patterned iron-on, so ones that have kind of a printed pattern onto them already. Foil, metallic iron-on, and then there's some really cool kind of specialty ones that are already cut into tiny little circles or squares. We call this mosaic vinyl. You can also get a flock. Cricut doesn't sell it, but flock vinyl, it feels like a fuzzy felt. It kind of has a felt texture, so that's another option for iron-on as well. Now how it works is each iron-on sheet has two layers. A clear plastic layer and the layer that is the actual iron-on that's going onto your project, whatever that might be. So if I grab a weeding tool, I can show you this. So if I pop the weeding tool in, I should be able to peel away my top and bottom layer. So here you go. Two layers. So the clear piece is what we call the carrier sheet. This is just used to keep your design in place. It's also heat resistant, so when you pop it down onto your project and you heat it, that's not going to melt. And then the other piece is your actual iron-on vinyl, so you can see that there. And you can see that it needs the carrier sheet to hold it in place nicely, else it gets a bit crinkled up. So those are your two sheets. So when you hear me talking about the carrier, that's that side, and when you hear me talking about iron-on, it's that piece. Now the main thing to remember is that we only actually cut into the iron-on piece. We don't cut all the way through. So therefore we always need to make sure that we're putting the carrier down onto the mat, because we don't want to cut that bit, and then the side that's the iron-on is up. So generally with most iron-ons, the shiniest side, or the colour, for example here, you've got that side and that side, the colour is the front. So that's the bit we're seeing through the carrier sheet. So we put it colour or most shiny side down. And with most iron-ons, you'll see the carrier looks really shiny, the other side slightly more dull. So that gives you a good indication that the carrier is going down onto the mat and we're going to cut into the iron-on layer. So that's one of the main things to remember. because of this, we need to always mirror our design. So you just click that little mirror button on your device or on your computer in Design Space, and it's going to flip your image for you so that when we cut into the back of this image, we flip it over, heat the front, the carrier piece, and our design will be the right way round. Then once it's hot and then that glue has worked and it's cooled down, we'll be able to peel away the carrier sheet and leave our iron-on behind. Now, of course, we generally talk about fabrics when we talk about iron-on, but in theory, as long as what you're popping it onto isn't going to melt with the heat needed to apply it, you can use iron-on onto it. I personally like to use iron-on on ceramics and onto wood instead of vinyl, but totally up to you. But with fabrics, iron-on is your best option if you want something that moves with your fabric and is long lasting. Now, of course, head to the Easy Press section to see the differences between using an Easy Press with iron-on and using an iron. I highly recommend an Easy Press because you're going to get that constant press over the whole piece. You're getting the constant heat, whereas with your iron it's going to be very patchy and you might find out that it peels off later. You are totally fine to wash items with iron-on on. They wash as normal, but go for a lower temperature on the tumble dryer and tumble dry them inside out, just as you would with any of your delicate items. But apart from that, it's super long lasting. As soon as you've finished it, you can pop it on and wear it and be super fancy. And it goes onto so many different materials and projects. And that is iron-on. Also for Cricut Joy, there is Smart Iron-On. So if you're using your Joy without a mat, you can use Smart Iron-On. This is specially designed, has a special carrier that it's wider, so it feeds into the machine and it doesn't need to sit on a mat. So if you've got Cricut Joy, just watch out for Smart Iron-On as well, or you can use any of the other iron-ons on the mat. It's important to choose the correct setting for your iron-on because you'll notice these are all different thicknesses. So of course, everyday iron-on for anything plain, Sport Flex has its own setting, holographic sparkle, glitter iron-on. Make sure you're picking that exact setting for the iron-on that you've got. I hope that helped you find out a little more about iron-on.